All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mystery of Gematria. The Mystery of Gematria. Bum, bum, bum. This is exciting. So this is a course that I am so excited to teach because it combines some of my favorite things. What's that song? These are a few of my favorite things, right? What are some of my favorite things? I'll tell you. First of all, you guys are some of my favorite things, right? This is already good, right? So you all being here, whether you're here in person or whether you're here virtually, this is good. So this is good point number one. Number two, we have the opportunity to study the Hebrew language and the mysteries of Hebrew. And let me tell you, Hebrew is an incredible language, which we will explore throughout this three-part series. It combines language arts, STEM, I'm kidding. Actually, mathematics, we got the M of STEM that is representing. So we have a lot to explore in this series. There's a lot of profound conversation and discussion. And the goal is not only to learn the process of Hebrew numerology and how it works, but to see it work in real time. And as an added bonus, I have my Chumash. This is probably my favorite. Can I pick favorites? I just did. This is probably my favorite edition of the Mikraot Gedolot, which is the Hebrew Chumash, the Torah that has collection of commentaries inside. There are many versions of this. This one I love, published by Art Scroll. It's got the Chumash text, Rashi, of course, and then a collection of commentaries. It's done very well. It's the same commentaries as usual, but it's just laid out very nicely. And it also has, I believe, Nikodot. It has the vowels in every commentary, which is very rare. So anyway, I only say that just to let you know that what we're gonna attempt to do in this series is not only learn the methodology of how this works, but to see it in real time. And I'll show you some stuff from this week's Torah portion that you can use at a Shabbat table or at a bar near you. You can pull this out as a little bit of a party trick. There you go. All right, so let's get started. I'm so excited. So I want to give you a bit of an intro. Okay, so again, reference this, please. I'm going to pull this up on the Zoom. So this handout, of course, the Mystery of Gematria, Hebrew Numerology. On the inside cover, you will notice the chart. Okay, here's what I want to do. I don't want to go through this right now. This is going to come up later in the lesson. We're going to go through every letter of the alphabet and the number that's associated with it. We're going to go through all that. Next week, I will share with you another 4 ways of calculating these numbers. So this is only method 1. There are several additional layers of interpretation of this. But first, let's talk about the word Gematria. Gematria is a little bit of a mysterious word. Yes, I brought pens in case anybody wants to take notes. Gematria is a bit of an opaque term. It's not a Hebrew word. Gematria, some say, is related to the English word or the original word geometry. Sounds similar, right? Gematria, geometry, which is the idea of numbers or the idea of like space and dimensions, relativity, mathematics. That's geometry. And then you have other commentaries that say that it relates to 2 Aramaic words, Gematura. So you see it in your in the handout right there on page number 3, meaning of Gematria. Either it is geometry, and that is, I think, the Greek spelling of geometry, or Gematura, which means a wide valley coming out of the bottom of a mountain. So imagine a large mountain, and from the mountain emanates a valley, and the idea is that from the letters of Torah, from the Hebrew letters, comes this valley, these well springs, this path of information that's coming from these tremendous boulders and mountains of the text. See, here's how the Hebrew language works. And this is something that's very important to know. So Hebrew is called the language of creation. It's not just a language. It is Lashon Kodesh. It's the holy tongue. It's the holy language, the language of creation, the original language that people spoke. Remember the story of the Tower of Babel and how they were building a tower together, and God says, I don't like why you're building this building, so We're going to make things, we need some diversification. Everyone wants to live in the same high rise. What is this? Miami, right? So what is this? Come on. I know the beach is nice, huh? Yeah. Or, I think Miami Beach is kind of like this, right? Like, it's Miami. We live in the Fountain Blue or whatever. Maybe we vacation there. I think it's a hotel, right? That's not, you don't live there. Whatever. Anyway, so the point is that everyone was building it. They were on the same page. And God says, no, we have to split everybody up. And what happens? Language diversifies. The original language, though, was Lashon Kodesh. When it comes to Hebrew, and you can reference the chart again back on page number 2, every letter has a few things going for it. There is the meaning of the word. In other words, the first letter is called, help me out here, guys. Aleph. Aleph means something. A doesn't mean anything. B doesn't mean anything. C doesn't mean anything in English. But in Hebrew, Aleph means something. Aluf, you know what it means? A leader. Bet, bayit, it means a home. Gimel means benefactor, to give. Dalet means to receive, to be impoverished. That's not what this class is, though. I'm just giving you, we're going to get to numerology in a second. I'm just giving you different layers of Torah, of Hebrew interpretation. You can interpret it based on the name of the letters. Every letter has a shape. The shape is highly significant, right? Look at the Aleph, right? Top right letter. The Aleph has 2 yuds and a vav, right? You see the yud at the top corner, yud in the bottom corner, right? Top right, bottom left of the Aleph, and then a line, a diagonal line like a vav in between. Every letter is significant. In fact, if you look at the letter bet, I love this one. The second letter, it's actually second and third letter, the bet and the vet. Anyway, that letter, okay, so I'll move my mouse on the screen so you guys see what I'm talking about. Make sure that we're on the same page. But the letter bet and vet. So, the opening letter of the Torah is the letter bet, bereshit, in the beginning, but it begins with the letter bet. All the commentators are wondering, why not an aleph? Who would start a book and not start with the letter aleph? Like, why would it start from bet specifically? So one of the answers from the Talmud, from the Gemara, is that the world is created like a letter bet, which means there's always a side open. Anytime you feel stuck, there's always an opening. It's not a closed system. It's almost closed. You can feel trapped. You can feel stuck, but there's always an escape hatch. There's always a way out of any problem, of any predicament. So that's the message of the letter bet. And every letter has a significance. Every letter is significant. So the meaning of the letter is significant. The shape of the letter is significant. When we read the Torah in formal settings, in synagogue, etc., we don't read it. We sing it. Every letter, every word in Torah has a cantillation mark. At least every word has a tune. So when it comes to Hebrew, it means something. There's language of meaning. There is art in its shape, and there's music in its cantillation. And then, of course, there's the numerology. And that's the layer of the language that we're going to focus on in this series. We could have a whole series on the meaning of the letters. We could have a whole series on the shape of the letters. We could have a whole series on the musical notes. But in this series, we're going to focus specifically on the numerology. And this is going to contain secrets upon secrets in Torah interpretation. Yes, Yaakov.
Is the yud in the aleph, the bottom yud, is that upside down?
Yes.
So that's like a mirror image of heaven, or if it's a mirror image of heaven?
Yeah, in fact, it says that the yud above is God, the yud below is us, right? Mirror images. And what connects us, that line, is either faith or Torah, depending on which interpretation you have. But that's that line that connects us, tethered to above. But yes, we are the mirror image, created in divine image like a mirror. Well said. Okay, so that's by way of general introduction. So what I want to do is, again, go focus, now turn back to the or look at that next page, the meaning of Gematria. We did. There are 4 levels of Torah interpretation, and these are called pardes. Pardes literally means the orchard. There's a story in the Talmud. It says 4 people, 4 great sages entered the pardes. 4 entered the orchard. Only 3 survived. It says 1 went mad, 1 became a heretic, 1 died, and only 1 came out okay. It was Rabbi Akiva. The famous Rabbi Akiva. Talmud says, Nichnas b'shalom, v'yatza b'shalom. He entered in peace and he came out in peace. Do you have a copy? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so only Rabbi Akiva came out unscathed. Everyone else came out scathed, right? What is the pardes? Pardes refers to an acronym. Again, it means in Hebrew, it means orchard, but it also, if you take there's 4 letters, Pei, Reish, Dalet, Samach, Pardes. If you look, it refers to the 4 levels of Torah interpretation. Pshat is the simple meaning of the text. Remez is the allegorical. Drush, like Medrash, is the homiletical, and Sod is the mystical or Kabbalistic. Where does numerology, Gematria, exist? Which level of Torah interpretation are we? If you walked into the mall and looked for Gematria, where would it say you are here? Where is it? It is actually Remez. It's Remez. Although it's probably a hybrid actually of mostly Remez, a little bit of Sod. It mostly is allegorical in the sense that when you look at the word, it hints to something else. Like allegory is like a hint. So it hints, in code in the letters is a hint. Although the mystics speak extensively about Gematria numerology, it exists most straightforwardly on the level of Remez, that second level of interpretation. Now, you also should know that there are some major players in the Gematria arena. One of them, one of my favorites, again, I reference my Chumash, is a commentary that is known as the Baal HaTurim. Raise of hand, you heard of Baal HaTurim? Baal HaTurim is epic. This commentary was written by the rabbi who wrote the Torah. You know what the Torah is? The Torah is the precursor of the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. Torah was written by a rabbi named Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher, whose father was Rabbi Asher, the Rosh, known as the Rosh, one of the great halachic geniuses of all time. His son was Rabbi Yaakov. He's called the Torah. He was the first one that organized the Code of Jewish Law into what we have today. You know, there's 4 major sections. It doesn't deal with any ritual. When I say ritual, any temple laws, Beit HaMikdash laws, only the stuff that is, the Torah areas, the halachic areas that are dealt with post temple, i.e., in diaspora times, and that's his book. So he was a halachist, the Torah was, and at the same time, he more than dabbled. What do you say to somebody who more than dabbles? Like he extensively was engaged in Gematria interpretation. So I literally opened up, I literally just flipped this open randomly. This is not a card trick. It's Vayikra. This is Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. I opened up to Parsha Tazria. So it's not this week's Torah portion, but I look at the Baal HaTurim. He quotes 4 words from the verse, and he says, Gematria, it's the same numerology as another 5 words. He does unparalleled work with Gematria, with numerology. It's incredible. It's not like a word to a word. It's like a phrase to a phrase. High level Gematria. We're going to bring some examples tonight. Okay, we're going to get back there. Just kind of trying to give a bit of an overview before we jump in. Now, you might be thinking, what's this numerology business? Right? So here's the short of it. Every letter, Hebrew letter, is associated with a number. Again, as I mentioned, there's multiple ways, 4, 5, 6 plus ways of doing this. We're going to cover a bunch throughout the series. Okay, so that's the basics. But you might be wondering, who says this is legit? Like, just because the numbers line up, so what, you can make up stuff? What are we making up ideas? Like, oh, the Gematria, the numerology of my name equals
entitlement.
No, I don't know. That's right. No, it equals football. Yeah. So like, is that what we're doing? We're just making up stuff. So here's what you need to know. This is very important with Gematria. Gematria, the goal of Gematria is not to make up anything. Look at the quote under tradition. Take a look. You see that tradition header? Okay. From Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 3, Mishnah 18. It says, Gematriot are condiments to wisdom. What's a condiment? You have a hot dog and a bun. Yeah. What's the condiment? The ketchup, the mustard, the relish, the mayo, whatever your favorite condiment is. The condiment is the accoutrement. It's like the icing on top, which means that there's something called wisdom, and then there's something called the condiment to wisdom. So
A
here's
seasoning.
a seasoning. Good. The voice of my mother emerges from, right. So exactly. It's the condiment, it's the seasoning, which means like this. Gematria is not creating ideas. Gematria helps reveal connections that are already there. The Baal Turim, who I know I'm referencing extensively throughout this opening, the Baal Turim will take a phrase in Torah and say it's the same numerology as another phrase, and that phrase will be probably a Talmudic or halachic insight on those words. But I'll say not only does it mean this, but the numbers also are there. The numerology is there. Gematria, so this is an important piece. Gematria, I don't mean the gematria that you find online. Like, oh, the gematria of the Gulf War is Saddam Hussein. I don't mean that stuff. And by the way, I'm not trying to discount that, but that's not what I would call traditional, authentic gematria. I'm talking about so gematria is really about revealing Torah connections that are already there that we know about, but it also reflects itself in the numbers. Take a look at Ramban Nachmanides. That's the next text down under tradition, the second quote. Everything handed to Moses in the gates of understanding, all is written in the Torah explicitly or hinted through words or gematriot or the forms of letters. Basically, you know how Torah is only the written Torah, but there's all this other oral Torah out there, right? There are all the elaboration explanations. The Ramban says all of that other stuff is hinted to in the written Torah as well, in the form of words, whatever that means, gematriot, or the forms of letters. If you know how to look at the codes of gematria, numerology, and other codes, you can find all layers of Torah and all of the expositions in the letters themselves. Let's take a look at the next quote, also critically important from the Ramban Nachmanides, who lived about 900 years ago. Take a look at what he writes. A person should not think. You make this bigger for our online crew. A person should, because why should people squint? A person should not think that the calculation of letters that we call gematria is nonsense, since a person could transform many verses to strange and evil ideas. The reason for this is because a person may not use the gematria methodology to reach conclusions that arose in his head. Look at that. You can use gematria to come up with what we would call Baba Mises. Rather, we have a Kabbalah, in this case, Kabbalah means tradition, that Moshe was given certain gematriot to be a reminder of a matter said orally. Thus, the calculation of gematria is to upkeep what was given and not to destroy. The Ramban clearly says gematria is not a free-for-all. It's not like, oh, come up with whatever you want, and we'll call it gematria. It's rather to support Torah, true and authentic ideas that we already know. Now, that's all by way of intro, but let's go way deeper. And to go deeper, we're going to now understand gematria from a level of Kabbalah. So here we go. We're going to now go into the sod, into the mystical level of understanding and see the depth of what gematria really is. So let's go. First thing you need to know is that what the Kabbalah teaches, that the world is created through language. Okay, take a look at Pirkei Avot, the code of creation. Look at that first line down. Well, it's at the bottom of that page. The world was created with 10 divine utterances. It says, Ba'asara, I'll quote the Hebrew from Pirkei Avot, chapter 5, Mishnah 1, Ba'asara Mamarot Nivra Ha'olam. With 10 utterances was the world created. The world was created through 10 statements of God. What are the statements of God? Help me out here. What's the first statement of God that God employs in the act of creation?
Bereshis bara Elohim.
Good. That's the first one. What are the other ones? How do they begin in English?
The Omer.
Good.
Hashem.
Let there be. God said, let there be. That when what it says, God said, let there be light. Let there be a firmament. Let there be a dry vegetation. Let there be animals and all that stuff. Let there be. God said, let there be. Right? That language, those utterances are called the 10. You look through the count of creation. There's 10 utterances. Well, there's 9 plus Bereshit, that first line. So it's 10 utterances. The world is created through 10 utterances. And the language of the sages and the language of Torah is precise. It doesn't say God wrote down the story of creation and it happened. It doesn't say God imagined creation and it happened. It said God spoke everything into being. What is the implication of speech? The implication is language. God encoded creation using language every day, whether it's a weekday or a Shabbat or a holiday or Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, every single day in Shacharit, the morning prayers, there's a prayer called Baruch Sha'amar. And in the Baruch Sha'amar, turn to the next page, look at that top quote. Blessed is he who spoke and the world came into being. Baruch Sha'amar v'haya ha'olam. Blessed is the one who spoke. Baruch Sha'amar v'haya ha'olam, and the world was. How did the world come into being? Through God's speech. Again, I know I'm trying to emphasize this. Kabbalah teaches, well, it's really not only Kabbalah. Torah teaches, liturgy tells us that the world came into being through divine utterances. Let's continue. Look at the opening. I put it here in Hebrew also. Look at the opening line of the Torah. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. The beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The commentaries wonder, why do you need the word et or eight, the way it is in the original, eight, aleph taf? It says, it could have said Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created hashamayim va'aretz. Oded, would that be grammatically correct? Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created hashamayim va'aretz. Would it pass? Okay. I always learned in writing, less is more. So why more? Why are we doing more here?
Et is specific.
Say it again.
Et is specific.
Good. I'll tell you what the Kabbalists say. What's the et? Aleph through Tav. God used the letters Aleph through Tav, right? It's like A to Z. God used Aleph through Tav to create the world. The world is created through language. What language? The Hebrew letters. As I said, all the way at the opening, right? All the way at the opening, I told you that Hebrew, Lashon Kodesh, the holy tongue, is the language of creation. It's the language that gives birth, that gives rise to existence. The next text we have from Genesis chapter 2, verse 20. This is when the Torah tells us about Adam naming the animals. Look at this. It says, Adam named all the cattle and the birds of the skies and the beasts of the field. He named all the animals. And the commentators wonder, who cares? You're expending a verse to tell us that Adam looked at the cow and said, cow. Like, not in English, right? But in Hebrew, right? He said, shar. Like, who cares? Why do we need to know that? You know what the answer is? The Torah is telling us how brilliant Adam was. Because here's the deal. If you could see, again, hold on. Let me take a half a step back. What does it mean that God encoded creation with letters? It means that language is the core of creation. Remember The Matrix? Remember The Matrix, the movie where Neo, right? What's his name? Come on, who's Neo? Help me out here. He's Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, right? Keanu Reeves is standing there and suddenly he doesn't see the world. He sees the code behind the world. Our world, where do you think they got it from? It's Torah, it's Kabbalah. This everything, all of energy is coded into being. But the code is not like English characters, it's Hebrew letters. So you know what the Torah is telling us about Adam? Adam could look at an animal and he saw the code. He's like, I know which letters power this animal. And he named the animals, not arbitrarily. Cat, dog, no. He named the animals using the language that reflects the spiritual energies that create that animal. Does that make sense? The Torah is bringing out the genius of Adam. When he looked at something, he didn't see the surface. He saw the core, he saw the letter, he saw the code, not the surface. You guys with me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it says there's one experience that we have, that we might have, that parallels this. You know which experience?
Name your kid.
Naming a child. So it says naming a child is a glimpse of prophecy. Where even if you think, I'm naming it after the Bubby, Zaidi, whatever, but even then, it's an intuition that you feel that this soul is associated with this name. That's a powerful thing. It's a taste of Ruach HaKodesh, a taste of prophecy. Because typically we don't see the code, we don't see the characters, we don't see the language of creation. You know, I put here some code. You see that? computer
Yeah.
code. And the reason why he did that, and that's just, kind of random computer code of a header of a website that says that the logo should be a little bit offset, 20% offset, but otherwise centered. Because as I'm sure you know, every website, every software program you use, every app, it looks all neat and shiny, but behind that, lines and lines of code. Everything, every color is connected to a alphanumerical code. Change the numbers or letters, you change the color. It's unbelievable how human beings, as we've discovered how we can create things, we have adopted the same methodology as our creator, using language to create. Everything is code. Every piece of software, it's all code. Every software that's ever existed. Zoom, we're using Zoom right now. It's all code, lines and lines and lines of code. It's not like, oh, let's create software by just waving our fingers and saying, let there be Facebook. It's not how it works. It's all code. God creates the same way. We parallel God.
And the second quote under tradition, when it said, all is written in the Torah or hinted through words. Is
Yes.
that words in the Chumash, in the 5 books of Moses, or is that the oral?
No, it's within the 5 books of Moses. I don't exactly what he means by that, I'm not sure. But his point is that everything that God taught Moses that wasn't clearly written down is also written down. You just have to know how to pull it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the code. So Kabbalah specifically gives one example. It says, this is from the Arizal. Rabbi Isaac Luria Yitzhak Luria, who is the founder of Lurianic Kabbalah, named after him, right? He lived in Sfat and Safed. Anybody visit his burial spot? The Arizal, pretty famous place. Yeah, I look at your shirt, very blue over there. Yeah. Right, Sfat is very mystical, very blue. Reminds us of the heavens. Anyway, very very special city, obviously. Right, high up, music, art, Kabbalah. So the Arizal teaches that even a stone has a soul. You think of things that have a soul, you think of, well, human beings have a soul. We have a soul, right? We're alive. Animals are moving around. Animals probably have a soul. Even vegetation grows, gets bigger. But a stone, no, it seems dead. It's just sitting there. It's not doing it. It's not growing. It's not moving. Except for when you drive. You ever drive on like a narrow road and it says, beware of falling rock, but it only uses rock in the singular. And you're thinking, is it just one rock that keeps on falling? Like falling rock that fell and they just, all right, let's put it back up there. Hold on, balance it up right at the edge. Kidding. Right. So you have falling rock in the singular. So, but other than that, typically rocks don't move. They're pretty inert, pretty still. And yet Kabbalah teaches stones also have a soul. In fact, it says that the letters of the Hebrew word for stone or rock, they contain, as we've been saying, they contain the energy force, the spiritual energy force of the actual item called a stone. So Evan, you see there in Hebrew, Aleph, Bet, Nun, those letters form the energy that creates, or those are the energies that create a stone. It's very similar to scientific or chemistry naming conventions. I'm sure that sentence did not make sense, but let me explain. H2O, what is H2O? What does it refer to? Water, right? H2O is water. But H2O is not water. H2O is H2NO. And as I wrote over here, it's dihydrogen monoxide. If you tell it to somebody, I noticed some dihydrogen monoxide at my home. What should I do? They're probably like, get out quickly. Meanwhile, I was like, no, it means you have water in your house. But H2O is interesting in that it's not a random name. It's a name that reflects the actual chemical composite of that thing. In other words, there's in English or in our experience, there are certain things that are named, not randomly, not arbitrarily, but named by the specific elements that make it exist. H2O means something. NaCl is salt, right? Sodium chloride, that's salt. NaCl, right? Na is sodium, Cl is chloride. put it together. What do you got? You got some salt. So in Hebrew is like the chemical names, right? Think of the Hebrew word even, not as cat. There's nothing about CAT that has anything to do with a cat. Trust me, I've explored it. Nothing, garnished, right? CAT, those letters, DOG, dog, arbitrary. But H2O is not arbitrary. It's what it is. It's H2O. NaCl, that's what it is. Even, stone in Hebrew, even, that's what it is. It's Aleph, Bet, Nun. That's what it is. Those are the energies. With this in mind, we can go on to the next section, word parallels.
So could we say that Aleph Ben is even a stone is a son of God?
You could, but again, we would need to find, we would hope to find the source. But yeah, and there's other allusions in these things that are brought down. Maybe that's also brought down. I'm not familiar with it, but I like that. Now, let's take a look at the next section, word parallels. Because given the significance and the precision of the Hebrew letters, it makes sense that words that seem to be unrelated are actually highly related. So let's look at the Hebrew word emunah. Okay, so under word parallels, this word right here, I'm highlighting it on the Zoom, but I'm virtually highlighting it for all of you, right? Emunah, ik means faith. Umanot means training or skill. They seem to be two different words. However, the commentaries point out, our sages tell us, the mystics also reflect this idea, and they say that the point of this is that faith takes training. If you want to have faith in a moment of crisis, well, it's going to be hard to pull out faith in that moment of crisis unless you've been practicing faith in your life, even when times were good. In other words, where was God when the good times were rolling? If you didn't think about God then, if it's like, oh, success, that's all me. God, maybe not, but I did that. Well, then if God forbid things are not going so well, it's going to be hard to suddenly pull out the God card if you haven't been carrying it, which means that faith is really the product of consistent training, consistent kind of behavior, learning of, God is ever present in my life, whether it's good, whether it's a challenge, God is always there. That's one example. Let's go to another example. Teva and Tubu. Teva in Hebrew means nature. It also is a sandal brand, as I'm sure you know, right? Footwear brand. Teva. Teva. I think Teva is also pharmaceuticals.
Big pharmaceuticals.
In Israel, right?
Generic, all over the world.
All over the world.
Generic.
Is it Israeli originally? It's got to be. Right. It's got to be Israeli.
Generic natural.
It's got to be right.
Not natural.
Well, I'm sure that's the angle they were going.
Yeah.
Teva is all nature's, all natural supplements or whatever they are. So Teva is nature. Tubu, that's it comes from the Torah. Tubu b'yam suf, about the when the Egyptians chased the Jewish people, God split the sea for the Jews and collapsed it on the Egyptians. And it says, now what happened to the Egyptians? Tubu b'yam suf, they sank in the Yam Suf, in the Sea of Reeds, right? They sank in the sea. So tubu means sunk. So if you look at these two words, nature, sunk, seems like two completely different words, but it can't be. Why can't it be? Because it has the same Hebrew letters. And if that's the energy, right? Again, letters are not arbitrary in Hebrew. If that's the energy of the word nature, it's got to be the energy of the word sunk. And if it's the same letters, it's the same energy. There must be a conceptual connection between nature and sunk. And the mystics tie this together and they say, you know what the connection is? What is nature? Nature is God sunk. What does that mean? What happens when something sinks into the sea? You can't see it anymore, right? Oh God, you saw that bridge? What a tragedy.
Yeah.
The bridge,
Baltimore.
a boat hit the bridge and the whole bridge, the video of it, the whole bridge. Let's not talk about that. It's very dark. People died. 6 people died. Man, it's crazy story. But hey, let's talk. Let's say you have a bar of gold. Faith.
Well, on faith and training.
Yes.
Nature and sun, they both have a bar.
Yes.
Why do they
Well-
interrupt them with the vav?
Why the vav at the end? Vav is also sometimes a vowel, so it doesn't really get in the way of the consonants. So it's there. Sometimes we'll focus on it. Sometimes it doesn't. It wouldn't disrupt the parallel. In this case, it's not going to disrupt the parallel. But good question. So let's say you have a. Let's pretend. Let's do some pretending. Let's say this is not a bottle of Dasani, purified water. Let's say it's a bar of gold. Look at that. And let's say you're standing. Oh, you're standing over on a bridge. Let's say over a lake or the ocean, or not the ocean, over whatever body of water, and you drop it into the water. What's going to happen with the bar of gold? It's going to sink, and you can't see it anymore, right? Where is it? Who knows? Does it exist? It's a simple question. Does it exist? Is it in existence? Absolutely. But it exists, but you can't see it. It's completely covered by the ocean. You totally can't see it. The Titanic. They discovered the Titanic. But there are other ships that they've never discovered, right? There are people that look for shipwrecks. It's like a business. I believe so. Right. I've never looked for one, but I believe there are people that go down in submersibles or not, that go down and and are looking for these types of things and hoping to strike a rich. Okay, so what happens? Something sinks to the bottom. It's there, but it's at least above the surface. You don't see it anymore. It's gone. That's what nature is. Who made nature? God. There's no such thing called nature. Mother Nature, nature is still God. God created the world. What's nature, though? Nature is where God is sunk. You don't see God. All you see is the trees. I see the buildings. I see the people. I see all this other stuff, but God is really powering it. But God is sunk. God is submerged beneath the surface, as it were. So that's why that's the connection between nature and sunk. Nature, what we call Teva, is God, but it's God sunk. You can't see God in that experience. All this makes sense? Yes, sort of. And again, all of this is predicated on the fact that Hebrew is not just a language of arbitrary. Yes, no, that's not a word. Yeah,
Arbitrary or arbitrarily?
yeah, it's not an arbitrary language, to say it that way, but it's rather a very precise language, a language that reflects the energies of whatever it's creating. Great. Now
wait. So connect the Egyptians with the God and sunk and all that stuff.
Okay, so Kabbalah says that these are that nature and sunk are connected. Could we expand this also to the idea that the Egyptians were the ones that worshiped nature and denied God? So they were the epitome of those that were taking what was sunk as reality and not looking beneath the surface, not looking with sonar beneath. Sure, I'm sure that's connected. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
That's what I was waiting.
Why are we looking up to God instead of down?
Oh, yeah, God is everywhere. It's just using an analogy that we might be able to relate to, this idea that God is everywhere, God is all pervasive, but you can't see God. Like something that's dropped into the ocean, suddenly you can't see it anymore. So it doesn't mean that God is necessarily down. It's just kind of a conceptual construct that God is here, but we can't see it. We're blind to that reality.
And Elohim and the nature have the same.
We're gonna get there. It's in this. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Now let's look at Gematria illusions. Let's get interesting. Okay, all of this. Oh, wait. Okay, here we go. To the chart. Inside cover. Let's go back. All right, we're gonna do this quickly because honestly, you don't have to memorize this. You have the chart. You have the power of the chart in your hands. Okay, here we go. The way Hebrew works is, just to make sure everyone's on the same page here, literally and figuratively, right to left, and of course, top to bottom. That's how we're going to rock. So top right corner is Aleph, Beis or Bet, Vez or Vet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Kaf, Chaf, etc. Okay, you can read all the letters yourself. Here's the normative way. This is called Mispar Hechrachi. Mispar Hechrachi is Hechrachi. Mispar Hechrachi is normative. Let's see, how did I translate it here in my notes? This is what we call absolute or normative value. Mispar Hechrachi. Absolute or normative value. That is as follows. Aleph, you start with the first letter. Aleph is 1. The letter bet or beis is 2. Gimel is 3. Dalet is 4. Hey is 5. Beis and vase, bet and vet are the same letter. One has a dot, one doesn't. We're not counting the dots right now. Okay, so it's every solid letter is a different number. It goes 1 through 10. Yud being 10. Just look at the numbers, and then after 10, you don't go 11. You go now in increments of 10. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, 100. Kuf is 100. And then you go 200, 300, 400. Aleph is 1, Taf is 400. And that's how basic Gematria formula works. So you have this now. You could take any name, any phrase, run the numbers. Again, next week, we're going to learn higher level or more complex versions of this. This is the basic calculation formula. Now let's.
Is this how we got high? Because
Yes.
it's 18.
Correct. Chai, excellent. Jill, excellent. Chai, the Hebrew word for life, vitality, and energy. Chai is ches and yud, right? So ches is 8, yud is 10, 18. That's why Jews are obsessed with 18. Everything's in increments of 18, right? Why? Chai, life. Exactly. It's all. What's crazy is, the number 18, which is now a standard Jewish number, it's Gematria. There's no inherent. It is inherent because it's Gematria, but it all comes from Hebrew numerology without anyone knowing, right? It's become a normal Jewish thing. 180, 360, right? 1836. It's normal. It's all Gematria. Now let's look at the nekudot. The nekudas. This is also mind-boggling. Every Hebrew vowel has an associated number. Kamatz, patach, tzere, segel, shva, cholam, chirik, shuruk, and others. Milupim, chatav kamatz, chatav patach, chatav segel. Everyone is associated with a number. How does this work? So typically the nekudot are either dots or lines. Look closely. It's either dots or lines. Do you notice that? You see that? Yes? Even the comments. The first one is a line with a dot underneath it. Every dot is worth 10, like a yud. And every line is worth 6, like a vav. You guys with me on this? Yeah? Dots are 10, lines are 6. So a kametz has a line and a dot, 16. Patach has a line of 6. Tzere has 2 dots, 20. Segel has 3 dots, 30, etc. All right, you can read it from there. Okay, does this clarify the chart? This is basic bread and butter, classic Gematria. I would say probably 90% of Hebrew numerology is on this. And by the way, for those online, after the class, I will send you the PDF, so you will have this PDF, so you can try this at home as well. So you'll have the chart. So this is the normal chart. 90% of Gematriot will follow this formula. The other 10%, again, come back next week. Now, that's higher level stuff. Okay, with this in mind, now let's fast forward back to the page that starts with Gematria illusions. You see that? Gematria illusions. So here I have a series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different instances of where you see Gematria used for a biblical interpretation, and it is magical. The first passage that we're going to study comes from Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 14, verse 14. 1414, which is also the address of the Chabad Yeshiva dorm. You stay there in Crown Heights, 1414. And by the way, Chabad, President Street. Chabad is very into numbers. You ever heard of 770? It's like no one even knows Eastern part. 770, right? 770, 1414. Here we go. Look at this. It says this is the war. Remember the war of the 5 kings and the 4 kings? Remember there was like a regional war, world war that broke out between 5 kings and 4 kings, and then the 4 kings were overpowering the 5 kings, and they kidnapped Lot, Abraham's nephew, And then he was told about Og, the giant. So many things in the story. Og, the giant, tells Abraham that your nephew was abducted, taken a prisoner of war. So Abraham starts fighting, and Og did that because he wanted Avram to get killed in battle so he can marry Sarah. It's a crazy story. But anyway, here's how the Torah describes it. I'm going to read it. It's right there. When Abraham heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, that means his nephew, he mustered his retainers. I don't know what that means, okay?
Put spice on your retainer.
Huh?
Put mustard on your retainer before you put it on your.
No, it's
tea.
the people who work with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Henchman.
Oh, okay, got it. He summoned his,
Gathered.
he gathered his, God, okay, thank you, because I was really lost for a second. So he mustered his retainers, born into his household, numbering 318, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. So he got 318 of his men, and he went into battle. Guess what? Never happened.
You got Elias?
He didn't have 318 men.
Right?
He didn't have
He
318
didn't have
men.
an army. Why did they say that?
318 is the numerology of Eliezer. I put it on top of the quote, Eliezer.
Good fighter.
Eliezer equals the numerology. Should we do it together? Aleph is what you can use the chart. You can flip back and forth. I wish we had a pull-out chart. All right, that would be next level. Folds out. You can reference it, whatever. All right, technology, we're not there yet. Eliezer, Aleph is 1. Lamed is 30. Who's good with numbers?
31.
31. Yod is 10.
41.
Good. Ayin is 70. Oh, 111. Good. Zayin is 7. 118. And Reish is 200. 318.
318.
And what does the Torah say? He took 318 people with him. He didn't take 318 people.
He just took Elliot.
He just took Eliezer. And him and Eliezer went, and they went. Why does the Torah say 318 people? Okay, Rashi on the Torah, Rashi is pshat. Rashi says 318, Eliezer. This is from Rashi. So we see here, this is why I call it illusion, remez. The Torah doesn't specifically say who and what was the 318. We know traditionally, we know it's our family story. It was Eliezer. Eliezer is the equivalent of 318. So you see how this works. You see how Gematria is so informative. Okay, let's continue.
And according to Torah, how did those two beat 5 kings and the entire armies?
Listen, that's where God comes in. That's where Emunah comes in, as we mentioned before. Now, let's look at the next one from Genesis 42. Oh, here we go. Here, put this part of the Joseph narrative. Remember Joseph? Abducted by his brothers, sold as a slave to Egypt. And then the next part of the story shifts where there's a famine in the land of Canaan, and Jacob, the father, tells his sons, go down and get us some food. And that's when the encounter happens. That's when they meet their brother. So let's quote Genesis 42:2. Now I hear, he went on, said Jacob to his sons, that there are rations to be had in Egypt. He tells his sons, go down, redu. Hebrew, redu. Go down and procure rations for us there, that we may live and not die. He says, go down to Egypt, buy some food. That's when they meet Joseph. They don't know it's him. He knows it's them, and the whole ruse happens. Okay, that's that story. But he says, go down, redu. What's the Gematria? What's the numerology of redu? Reish is 200. Dalet is 4. Vav is 6. 200 plus 4 plus 6 is
210.
210.
How long were they down?
210 years.
They were down in Egypt 210 years. When he tells his kids, redu shama, go there, go down, he's telling them, he's alluding, he's hinting to the fact that when they go down, the Jewish people, the family, will be in Egypt for 210 years. Now, you might be wondering, wasn't there something about 400 years? Yes. God had told Abraham 400 years, but that was 400 years from that conversation with Abraham. The Exodus happened 400 years after that conversation, but the actual time in Egypt was, I'm not going to say only, that's a long time. How old's America? No, 17.
It'll be 215 too.
It'll be 250 soon. So a little bit over 210. 210 years is not an insignificant amount of time. It's enough time for people to completely lose their identity. We didn't, but go down, redo is 210. All right, yeah.
Was that counted because the land wasn't given to us yet? We were still in a strange land, even though he was in Israel?
I think it's from the moment that you know exile is happening, you're already like,
Right.
foreboding. Yeah.
Mhm.
It actually says the word dread. Interesting. it says that when God communicated that with Abraham, a dread fell upon him. Darkness and dread fell upon Abraham. So already from then, it's considered to be the beginnings of Egyptian exile. Yeah, or that also. Okay, now next one, Exodus 35. We're literally going through Torah here and picking out specific verses that display this in a beautiful way. It says this is regarding the building of the Mishkan. What was the Mishkan? The Mishkan was the tabernacle. Okay, the Mishkan was the first sanctuary, the portable sanctuary that they built in the desert, in the wilderness. So it says Moses then convoked. What's convoked? Maybe convened? All right, convoked. Yeah, evoked, convoked the whole Israelite community and said to them, these are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do. This is Vayakel, beginning of the Torah of Vayakel, right? He gathered them and said, Eila hadvarim, these are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do for the Mishkan. But first, on 6 days, work may be done, but on the 7th day, you shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, holy to the Lord. In other words, 6 days you shall work, including building the Mishkan, the tabernacle, but on Shabbat, even though it's a very important project, you are not to construct it. That was the message that was being communicated from Moses to the Jewish people. But the operative word that we want to focus on is where he says, Eila hadvarim, these are the things. The Hebrew word Eila, Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Hey is 5. 1 plus 30 plus 5 is 36, 2 times Chai. Eila hadvarim, these are the things. So here we go. You guys ready for this? Well, yeah. Oh, hold on. What 26 is Havaya. But here's the interesting thing about this. Hadvarim. Okay, it says again, Eila hadvarim. These are the things. So davar, thing, is 1. Devarim, things, is 2. Hadvarim, the things, is now 3. You with me on that? Does that make any sense? If I say thing, means 1. Things is 2. The things, there's the, and then things, the is 1, things are 2, that's 3. What's 36 plus, I know this is getting complicated, 36 plus 3, Eila hadvarim, 36 plus 3 is 39. How many forbidden labors are there on Shabbat? 39. I got there. All right, I got to the other side of that bridge. All right, we got there, right? 39 malachot, 39 forbidden labors, and the sages learn it out, derive it, or it's not derived totally, but they connect it allegorically on a remez level, hinting in these words, Eila hadvarim, Eila is 36, plus the 3 of hadvarim is 39. What Moses is saying about resting on Shabbat is resting from these things. These are the things you're commanded to do. All the labors that were meant to be done to build a Mishkan, those are the very labors that cannot be done on Shabbat. The 39 forbidden labors are the 39 specific things that they had to do to build a Mishkan, like lighting a fire and other things, whatever. Those are the things that are forbidden. Eila is 36, Hadvarim is 3, 39 total. Okay, let's continue. Leviticus. Let's move on to the next book, the book of Leviticus. The book of Leviticus talks about sacrifices primarily. And indeed, the Torah talks about how the high priest enters into the sanctuary. And the Torah tells us, Bezot yavo Aaron el HaKodesh. With this, Bezot, with this, shall Aaron enter the shrine with a bull of the herd for a sin offering and a ram for burnt offering. In other words, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he has to bring an offering before he goes in to the temple. He has to come in with an offering, certainly the first time, but even he had to bring one every single day as part of his ritual. Bezot yavo Aaron. What is bezot? What's the numerology? Let's do it together. Bet is the second letter, it's 2. Zion is 7. All right, that's 9. Aleph is 1, that's 10. And Tuf is 400. Last letter I said is 400. So 400 plus 10 is, oh, you know that, 410. How many years did the temple stand? You got it, 410 years. Bezot yavo Aaron. With this, or in this number of years, 410 years, the high priest will come into the temple, because the first temple stood for 410 years. That's very cool. Again, all of this, we would call this the illusion, not illusion with an I, but allusion. Remez. How do you translate remez in English? Hint? Is there a better word? It's a hint. In other words, the Torah is hinting to how the Torah hints to who went with Abraham, Eliezer. The Torah hints to how many years of Egyptian exile. The Torah hints to how many forbidden labors there are. The Torah never says the number 39, but read between the lines. Go to the Numerology. You see it's 39. The Torah hints to how many years the temple will stand. Now, here's one that we love. You may be familiar with this. This is probably one of the more famous ones. You know, in the book of Numbers is where the mitzvah to wear it sit. You know, the strings on the corner. By the way, if you need anything, I can always try to pull some strings. Oy. Sorry that you had to experience that. Here we go. So the Torah says the following, book of Numbers. This is in the Shema, right? This shall be fringes, tzitzis for you. And when you see it, you'll remember all the commandments of the Lord to perform them. And you shall not wander after your hearts and after your eyes, after which you are going astray. In other words, if you look at your tzitzis, that's why, then you'll be good. By the way, that's why, at least traditionally, men were obligated to wear tzitzis, not necessarily women. Why? Because who's more likely, let's just be honest here, who's more likely to go astray after their eyes? Men.
More visual.
Man, that's it. I mean, that's the Torah. No, God knows. Listen, God made us. He probably knows us. Yeah.
This book we just finished from my book club.
Yeah.
Called Evil Inclination.
Mm.
So the guy was going after a woman he shouldn't have gone after, and the tzitzis hits him in the face.
Interesting. Does that stop him? Really? Look at that. It works.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Right. So
slapped on the
he
cheek.
got slapped upside the face with little tzitzis. By the way, as a kid, I remember this as a kid. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, or maybe it's not just me. Walking through shul and people wrapping their towels around them in the morning and just getting whipped in the face.
Mhm.
You remember that? I don't know why. I guess when you're younger, it's probably a height thing.
Yeah.
It's probably like you were that level where tzitzis were just slapping you upside the head. Now it has never happened to me as an adult. I literally just recalled it now as a crazy recollection of being more than once whacked. So yeah, that would be a good deterrent. Anyway, so the Torah says when you look at tzitzis, you'll remember all the commandments. What's the mashaychus? What's the mashaychut? What's the connection between looking at the tzitzis and this? So here we go. It's numerology. Rashi says this also. What's the numerology of tzitzis? I know it says it right there, 600. How do you get that? Tzaddik is 90, Yud is 10. Tzaddik is 90, Yud is 10, because there's twice, right? Tzaddik, Yud, Tzaddik. So how much is that? 90, 10, 90, 10 is? 200. Toph is, by now you got to know this, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is 400. 400 plus 200, 600. Great. But there's 613 commandments.
Yeah.
Oh, but wait, there's more. How many knots are there? Oh, you know this one, right? It's famous. How many knots are there
12,
on the...
13?
No. Wait, not yet. How many? On each corner, there's 5 knots. There's 5. All right, should I demonstrate? Right, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's also strands around, but here, there's 1 out here, 1 out here. Boom, 5. Take my word for it. I don't know. Could you guys see online? I don't know. Oh, I have the thing up. Whatever. 5 knots. That's 605. How many strands are there?
Well,
8. Well, no. For each one. So there's 5 knots and 8 strands. 5 plus 8 is
Oh.
13. Plus the Gematria, tzitzis, 600. There you go. One on the page. We're going to wrap up very soon. Harayon. What does that mean in Hebrew? Huh?
Ra'ayon,
Harayon.
idea.
Also, pregnancy.
Oh, herayon.
Harayon. I'm not pronouncing it. Harayon. Harayon is pregnancy. The Gematria pregnancy is Hey is 5, Resh is 200, Yud is 10, Vav is 6, Nun is 50. Add it up together, and what do you got? 271. Guess what? How many days
Oh.
is pregnancy? 9 months, 30 days, give or take 271. It's crazy, huh? There's something about Hebrew.
Yeah.
There's something. Now, let's look. Oh, okay, last page. We're going to go through this very quickly. All right, my goal was to end at 8:30. Give me another 2 minutes. Okay, very quickly. Gematria parallels And here we go. We're going to do a few more. Again, lesson 1 is kind of giving laying the foundation for Gematria, giving you the basic chart, creating, laying the foundation for some of the concepts, and then going through some of these ideas. But we're going to wrap up very soon. Gematria parallels. Here we go. So certain words are connected to each other. I'm going to go through them very quickly. Amalek is 240. You know who Amalek is? The arch enemy of the Jewish people. Safek is 240. What does that? Safek means doubt.
Yeah.
What does Amalek do as a people? Yeah, they sow doubt and fear. It's like, terrorism, right? What's the goal of terrorism? It's not just the act of violence. That's violence. What's terrorism? Terrorism is to strike fear. Amalek is about creating doubt. It's like, well, is it really that important? Should I really? The inner Amalek is the voice that said, the cynical voice inside that says, don't take it so seriously. Come on, you're all inspired. Ooh, who are you, a tzaddik now? Seriously, take it easy. Take it easy. You and I both, this is the inner voice says, you and I both know who you are. Take it easy. You're not a tzaddik. You're going to do this mitzvah because you're so inspired. Take it easy. That's Amalek, Safek, doubt. We got to fight against that every single day. Got to remember Amalek and say, no, I can be holy. I am holy. Okay, next, Elokim and Hateva. We already did this before, and Yaakov mentioned it. Elokim is God, 86. Hateva, nature, is also 86. Again, what is nature if not God? Sunk. Even, Elokim is with the hey. I'm writing it here because I don't want to write God's name. I don't want to put, sorry.
It's like, so the
No. Kuf is 100. Right, no, it's a hey. I just couldn't write it. I was thinking about maybe writing the hey and then a dash. I probably should have done that because now it's just misleading. But just so you know, Elokim is, we only pronounce it like that. It's really a hey instead of the kuf. So it's 5 instead of 100. It makes a big difference, especially with the numerology. Oh, last few. Okay, this is it. This is the last piece. There's a verse in Genesis 49:10 where Jacob, Yaakov Avinu, our patriarch Jacob, is blessing his sons before he dies. He's on his deathbed, and he has 12 sons, right? The 12 tribes. And he gathers them, each of them, one by one, and he gives them a blessing and a prophecy and a premonition of what's going to happen. So this is what he says about Judah, Yehuda. He says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh arrives. Ad Yavo Shiloh. And to him will be a gathering of peoples. Yavo Shiloh. What's Yavo Shiloh? Until Shiloh arrives. Who's that? Oh, Yavo Shiloh. It's 358. You know what Yavo Shiloh is also? Mashiach. Mashiach is the Messiah. In other words, what Jacob is saying is that Judah, you are the tribe that is the monarchy, King David, right? The leadership. And it will culminate ad ki yavo Shiloh, until Shiloh arrives when Mashiach comes, and to him will be a gathering of peoples. Everyone's going to rally around Mashiach, the Messiah. So that's, again, an allusion, a hint to Mashiach in the Torah. Sometimes people ask, where do you see the concept of Mashiach? Where does it say about Mashiach in the Torah? A messianic redemption? Where? Doesn't look through the 5 books of Moses. I don't see it. Okay, first of all, there's a few allusions, but here's one. Yavo Shiloh, Mashiach, numerology.
Shiloh also mean the city of Shiloh?
Yeah, no, till Shiloh arrives into him means a person.
Ah.
But who's the Shiloh? Who's this? Or in English, Shiloh. Who's Shiloh? Who's Shiloh? Who is this? Mashiach. Now, look at Shiloh. Yavo Shiloh. Mashiach will come. Mystery of Gematria. What about Shiloh himself? Shiloh is 345. Guess who else is 345? Moshe. What's the message? Mashiach will be like for lack of a better term, a second coming. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Mashiach will be a figure like the original, the OG leader of our people. Who was our original savior, redeemer? Again, it sounds wrong, but our original redeemer was God, obviously, but Moshe. And who will be the ultimate redeemer? Mashiach. Good. Yavo Shiloh will come. Mashiach will come. Shiloh is like Moshe. Parallel. Yavo, because there's 2 words. Yavo Shiloh. Yavo is 13. Echad is also 13. What's Echad? 1. What does that mean? What is the job of Mashiach? The job of Moshe? To connect us with Echad. When Moshe connects the Jewish people with Echad, that's redemption. When the Jewish people are on board with God, Egyptian exodus. When we are on board with Hashem, Yavo Shiloh, Mashiach comes, and that is our hope and our faith and our trust that this day will come. All right, so I know I ran through those quickly, and my apologies, but it's all here. And if you ever have any questions, call me up. We'll do some numbers together. So this is the opening, huh?
We'll run the numbers.
We'll run the numbers, right? Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking about gambling and Shohei Ohtani, but there's my head right now. Sports scandals. Okay, so that's the opening session. That's my opening thing. I wanted to get in more than less, so I know we jammed in a lot of info. But in short, if I were to quickly summarize, I would say like this: Gematria is not a game. Numerology is not a game. It's not like, oh, let's find things that match. Let's run it through AI and find out what letter combinations will match, and boom, we can figure out and predict world events and who's going to win the election. That's a little bit of a game. Traditionally, Gematria is meant to support what we know. It's not like Gematria invented Mashiach. But once you have Mashiach, once you know Mashiach, you can find it in places. It's not like Gematria invented the fact that Eliezer went with Avram to battle, to do into war. But once you know that, it's also in the numbers. That's what the Ramban said. The numbers are revealing what we know traditionally. But to create new traditions based on numerology, we don't do. So that's point number one. Point number two is that Hebrew is the language of creation, which is why it's not surprising that there's so many layers of depth, layers of meaning in the letters, in their shape, in their sound, in their meaning, and also in their numerology, the code of creation. Every Hebrew letter is precise, and if two things share the same Hebrew letters, it's a sign that the energies are somehow parallel, which is why when you have the numerology lining up, that's why two concepts have that parallel, because they literally are powered by the same number of divine forces, the same type of divine energy. And then we went through a bunch of examples, expositions in Torah, and of course, these types of illusions that we saw on that last page of the handout. All right, any questions before we close out? Does that make sense? Yes, more or less.
Rabbi?
Yes, Annie. Oh, hold on. I think you're muted.
Tell me again, what is Pardes? And tell me again, what are the letters that make up Chai?
Okay, Pardes means literally orchard, but it's a reference to the cornucopia. It's a reference to the spectrum of Torah exposition.
But to tell me the letters.
Oh, sure. Pei, the letter Pei, Reish, Dalid, and Samach. Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Sod. Those are the four letters.
What is Pshat? Just tell me very quickly. I don't want to hold anybody
Sure.
up.
Pshat is the simple explanation. Remez is the hint. Drush is like the midrash, homiletical, whatever that means. And then Sod is the Kabbalah, is the mystical.
And what are the letters that make up Chai?
Chai is Ches and Yud. 18. Ches. Yeah.
What is
Ches.
that, Chaf? Or
No, not tough. Ches. It's like the top. And then the Yud.
It's Het Yud.
Het Yud. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So
But I'll send you this handout. You'll have it. It'll be much easier once you see it.
So Het is what number?
8.
8 and Yud.
Het is 8 and Yud is 10. Hence
Thank you
18.
very much. Yeah,
Pleasure.
Very bright.
Yeah.
No, I once took a class at the Kalel.
Yes.
Many years ago, but it was about secret words in the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's something totally?
That's something else. That's where you look at the sequencing and you count every 15 letters. You start spelling out. They did that in the 90s. Saddam Hussein, Gulf War, Kuwait, President Bush. That's right. That's where they were doing a lot. There's a lot of stuff. That pretty much you can, I mean, that's computer. That's because a human being to start figuring that out. There's some amazing things that you see. You take the text and you start skipping number of letters and you count whatever you start at a certain point and you skip and it forms patterns. That's not what we're talking. That's not numerology. That's something else. That's sequencing.
Can you find 3 cousins in the Torah?
Yes, right here. Right here. Good. I love it. It's like the Brady Bunch. This is great.
Ari, I
yeah.
just wanted to say that you could say that Gematria is like an enhancement, and it's
Yes.
also a support.
Right. Yes. Very good. Right. Both. And going back to my condiment example, basically
Yes.
ketchup and mustard. Right.
Yeah.
It gives a little extra flavor, and it gives a little tom. Yeah, Oded.
In the late 80s, the IBM came with the Watson.
Watson,
computer
chess.
that was playing chess and all, so they actually took all the sequences that they found in the Bible, they fed them to the computer, and then they entered a bunch of different books and tried to find if any book
Has the
can
same
have
pattern.
any resemblance, patterns, or sequences whatsoever. And they couldn't get, like it was Rumble, like they got the New Testimony, they got Gone with the Wind. I mean, they like
Shakespeare.
a bunch of different classics over there, and nothing made sense
Except for
like the
Torah.
Bible.
Yeah.
Like the
Look, it says elsewhere in other sources, it says the entire Torah is code. It's divine names. You can understand Torah on so many levels. You understand that when you look at the numbers, you suddenly realize, okay, I'm going to try to describe it the way I feel it. I don't know if it's going to make sense. So, okay. So imagine you have a scroll in front of you, a Torah, look at a Torah scroll, right? On parchment. So you have the letters here. But imagine the numerology as like another layer. And you have underneath every letter and every word, you have now numbers. And now you're dealing with like it's not subterranean or whatever, but you have another layer of understanding. And as we'll see next week, let me tease something. You ready? I'm going to tease one thing. This is going to blow your minds. Maybe. I think so. Blows my mind.
Rabbi Ari, was there an idea that all the Yehudi in the entire world forever is written in the Torah, in code?
That our mission and destiny? Yes, 100%. 100%. It says that Torah contains everything. It's the Torah. I should have put it here. I apologize. It says that Torah is the blueprint of creation, which means if it's in the world, it's in the blueprint.
For each person?
For all of time. Nothing can exist. Nothing can manifest if it's not in the code. Who's putting, again, imagine a blueprint, a literal blueprint. If it's not in the blueprint, it's not going to be in the house. You're building a house, right? You follow the plans. If it's not in the plans, you're not getting it. It's like, where's the window? There's no window. There's no window here. I mean, where's the window? Put the window in the plans. If anything exists for all of time, that's what Jay is saying. If anything exists for all of time, it's got to be in the Torah. Now we're not covering this entire school. We're focusing on numerology. Oh, so here's what I wanted to tease. I shared with you today that every letter has a number, right? We saw the numbers, right? Every letter has a number. You have the chart. Again, I'm going to send you guys a PDF. Don't worry. Everyone's going to get it, right? So here's the chart. Okay, good. However, every letter has a sound. Aleph. It's not just a character. Aleph. It actually 3 characters. When you say it, it has 3 letters. Aleph. If you spell out the letter, forget the spell out the letter, it's 3 letters. Aleph is really Aleph, Lamed, Fe. So what's the numerology of Aleph? Is it 1 or is it 111? Next week on the mystery of Gematria. Oh, baby. So no, that's what I'm saying. And it's not exclusive one or the other. It's also Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Pe is 80. So 80 plus 30 is 110 plus 1 is 111. By the way, what's 111? 111. Right. Guess what? Also ones. Ones are wild. Said no one ever. So again, there's depth. Oh, so what I'm trying to say is when you're reading the Torah, can you imagine if you will, it's again mind-boggling. Imagine if you will, you have the letters on one plane, right? Every letter, every word on one plane. But beneath every letter is the letter spelled out. Like if there's a bet for Bereshit, it's a Bereshit, but the bet is bet Yotaf, right? And Reish is Reish Yod Shin. Every letter has 3 letters. So now you're dealing with like more dimensions, and you can interpret maybe this way or that way, diagonal or parallel on different levels. You with me on this? We got a lot to talk about.
Scaffolding.
Scaffolding
And the shapes.
and the shapes. Well, not about shapes.
Does every word, every Hebrew word in the Torah has a meaning? Or is it just certain words in the Torah that have a meaning?
Every word has a meaning. We mean letters or words?
Letters.
I mean letters
The
or words?
word- So like that, the word here, like the word here.
Which one?
You know,
Let me see. Oh, Yavo Shiloh, that one? Oh, like with numerology?
yeah.
Look,
Did every
good
word-
question. I don't know that there is a commentary that goes through every word. But all that means is that no one's done that work.
Mhm.
Does every word have numerological meaning? Every letter? 100%. Has someone done that work and written it out? No. I would bet no. Even with all the 3,000 years, literally 3,000 years of commentary. There were certain mystics
Mhm.
and others that went into this. And also, to me, it's very strange. The Torah, the Baal Turim. Oh, I never got back to the parsha. Wait, it's too late today. I'll do it next week. The Baal Turim was a halachist. He was like a legal, imagine like a legal mind, and yet he dabbled in this. Love that. I love that he was able to it says that he would do this. He would like lie down or get into like a dream, and then I don't know if the right word is conjure, but he would then like see these connections. And he didn't invent new ideas, but he showed how. I can't hold myself back. I wrote myself a few notes. Let me find the notes. Okay, Yaakov, you want to say something in the meantime?
Yeah, the relationship between actual creation and the Torah. So when God tells Moses, in the beginning I created heaven and earth, it was already created. Because Moses, we had already been around for a few hundred years. Without the Torah, you still had creation.
Yeah.
But Torah got written down later, after creation.
2,000 years in, yeah.
Right. So if the Torah was not written down,
No, the Torah existed.
the Torah existed.
Absolutely. Alpayim Shana Torah
And God was
Kadmalola.
just dictating.
100%. Yeah, it's already before then. That's why Adam says to God that. Adam says to God, in the Torah that you wrote 2,000 years before creation, 2,000, before creation, it says that what the laws are when somebody dies. It says, wait a second. If I hadn't sinned, there would be no death. Death was only visited upon humanity because of my sin. Right. You knew I was going to sin. You set me up to sin. And you know what the Medrash says God did? He didn't answer him. You know what that usually means?
You're right.
Guilty as charged, baby.
Guilty.
So, but we're not going to get into that. That deals with free choice and sin and God's intention, and that's a thrilling topic, but not for now. So here's the Baal Turim. I can't hold myself. Vayikra, karbanot, sacrifices. Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 1, verse 5. It says that for a sacrifice, you bring a ben bakar. Ben bakar means cattle. Ben bakar means cattle for a sacrifice. The numerology of Ben Bakar is 354. What's 354? The lunar year.
Yeah.
The lunar year is 354 days. I know 365 is a solar year. The lunar year is 11 days shorter. That's why we have every 2 or 3 years a leap year, like this year, because otherwise the Jewish year, like Ramadan, like the Muslim calendar, right? It's less every year. That's why Ramadan keeps on moving, but we can't move Passover. It always has to be in the spring. So we add leap years without getting too complicated. The Jewish year is 300, without a leap year, is 354 days. Ben Bakar says the Baal Turim, says that teaches, not that, that's an allusion to the fact that when you bring cattle for a sacrifice, it has to be at least 354 days old. You can never bring a sacrifice under a year old. An animal that's under a year old. It has to be at least a year old. Again, alluded to in the numerology.
Helpful hints.
This week's Torah portion. It says that when you have the ashes by the altar, there's a lot of when you burn things, ashes. It says that others should take it out. Something like others should take it out. He says the Gematria numerology of HaKohanim Bali Mumin. The Kohanim that had blemishes. that couldn't do this other service of offering the sacrifices. Because let's say somebody broke an arm, they couldn't do the service. Well, what could they do? Acherim v'hotzi, they could take out. He didn't invent these laws. These laws are on the books. This is halacha. But he found the parallels, the numerological parallels in the Torah itself, to hook it back in together. In the words, all of oral Torah is written in the written Torah, somewhere hinted. Lahanif also. Certain sacrifices had to be waved around. Lahanif also to be waved. He says the Gematria, Molech umevi umayla umorid. Front and back, top, up and down. How did you wave it? All 4 directions. Again, Molech umevi umayla umorid is the Gematria of Lahanif also to wave it. It's unbelievable the work that he did in the field of numerology. That's a taste of this week's Torah portion. I told you I couldn't hold myself back, but all right, we're going to end it. All right, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Come back next week. Tell your friends, bring your friends, and we will pick up with the numbers. And if anybody needs help, I hope you have my number. Next week, you can keep it. Next week, we'll have an all new one with a chart again and maybe some other charts. But that's next week. All right, thank you all for joining. See you guys. Vlad, great to see you. Jay, great to see you. Richard, Jules.
Good to see you, Ari.
Oh, again, Meira, Mom, and pleasure. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. And how do we pronounce
Shimei.
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 Shimei?
Shimei is the wife.
Shimei. Yeah, Shimei is here. Good to see you. Nice to meet you. Yaakov has told me a lot about you, and hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
You can ask questions, Shimei. He loves questions.
Au revoir.
All right.
Next time. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care.